Okay guys, welcome back to episode 2 of our slab stacker. Today we're going to be working on cutting our cube, or our slab that moves into the scene, into the correct size. Once you stop the cube, whatever is overhanging, we're going to get rid of that. And then technically we're just going to resize it so that it looks like it's been cut. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So if we have a look at our plan, it's not too long. Hopefully it will go smoothly because there's a lot of calculations that we have to do involving determining the size of the overhanging bit, and then what else, creating a new position and then a new scale and all of that rubbish. So hopefully it goes smoothly and we don't run into any problems. But let's have a look and see what's next. So the first thing we have to do is we need to figure out this overhang. So if you can see here, let's just move this a bit. So I still haven't figured out how to rotate our camera. Oh, that's how. How do you move this out? Okay, they figured it out now. Okay, so there must be an easier way to do this. Anyway, we'll do this like this for now. So as you can see, let's just move this out over here. So here you can see that we have our moving slab. So our moving slab is going to be the top one. So when it's going to start somewhere around here and it's going to move into the scene, and whenever it gets over our previous one, which is this one, you will have to stop the current moving slab, and if it stops at this position, we want to cut this bit off here. Or we want it to look like it's going to be cut off and just drop out of the scene, but that's not what it's going to do. What we're going to do is we're going to resize this into the size from there to there, so it looks like the new bit that's actually on top of the previous one. And then what we're going to do for the overhanging bit is we're actually going to create a brand new slab of this size and just spawn it in that position and then let it fall down out of the scene, so it looks like it is one slab that gets cut into two. But in today's episode, obviously we're just going to cut the current slab that you stop and then just resize it and then position it in the correct place. So let's go ahead and start doing that. So what do we want to do? Let's go back to our scene or our game so we can see what it looks like. And then we will open up our moving slab class. So in here, or in our game manager, in our moving slab here, we need to create a few methods. First of all, the one is going to be a method to cut the slab into the correct size, and in that one we are going to cut it, and then we're going to resize it, let me say that, and then we're also going to reposition it into the correct position. But to do that, first we have to start off with a few different things. So let's go and see what's first. Let's make that full screen and put that there. You can get rid of this, don't know what that is. So what's next? First we need to create a float for our hangover to calculate this value. And why we got, okay, so this is the wrong one. Actually, I don't know which one it is, so let's just go and close both of these quick so that we can open up the correct one. So we want to open up both of these, open them up, and then we'll pop that in there. So in our moving slab we need to create a float called, we'll make it public for now, we'll make it private because I don't think we need to access it from anywhere else other than this class. So we will say private float hang over, and we will not set that at the moment because we don't know what it is. Then what do we have to do? So now we need to go ahead and calculate what this hangover is. So to do that, obviously we're only going to do that when we press on the screen and the what's it called, the the slab actually stops on top of the other slab. So we'll do that in our pause method, because that is being called whenever that's the method that is being called whenever we press on our mouse button. So in here we will say hangover is equal to transform.position.z, and then we're going to minus our previous slab, so we need a reference to that. So we need to get, where is it, our first slab, which is the bottom one. We need to get that position. So let's go, and first of all we need to add the script onto here. So let's add in the, what is it, moving slab script onto that. But obviously that's not going to really work because it has a speed of 5, so that's going to cause the initial slab to move, which is not what we want. So we'll go make this public, and then for that slab only, let's just do that quickly so we can update this. So for the bottom slab only, we will go and set the speed to 0, so that when the game does start, that bottom slab doesn't move. So if we click on it, we should see that script. So there we go. We'll set the speed to equal to 0. So if we play the game quick, you should see that only the top slab moves, hopefully. Yeah, cool. So only the top slab moves, that's fine. So let's go finish calculating this hangover. So here we need a reference to our previous slab. So let's go and say private. Actually, let's go and do this. So why can't I copy that? Copy and paste that. And then this is also going to be moving slab. So here we'll say previous, or should we, let's just say last, or let's say first rather, first, because it's going to be our first slab. First slab, like that. And then in our start here, we need to set this. So here we will say if the first slab is equal to null, then we will say first slab is equal to this. Cool. So we'll save that, and then we'll go back into this because we have an error. Okay, so we still need to finish our hangover. Okay, so what this is saying is it's checking to see, what do I do? It's checking to see if there is anything assigned to our first slab, and if there isn't, that means that the game object that the script is attached to is actually the first slab. So it's going to go and assign this script to that. So that's what that is doing. So now that we have our first slab, let's go and minus that z position. So let's go transform.position.z minus the first slab.transform.position.z. So that should give us our hangover. Cool. So we'll save that, and let's go back to our checklist and see. So we've done that, create a previous cube, yeah, assign a moving cube. Script, we've done that, we set the speed to 0, check if the previous cube, okay, we've done that. So now we need to resize the current cube and then spawn in a new cube. But obviously in this episode, we are only going to resize that cube. So what do we need to do? We need to split the cube on the z-axis. And then we need to create the new size, and then we need to create the new scale and set the size and the scale, or the position and the scale of the current slab, so that it shrinks down into the current slab minus the bit that's hanging over. So let us go and do that in our pause methods here. So under our hangover, we are going to create a new method called set slab size. You can call it whatever you want. I'm just going to say it's a set slab size, and we are going to pass in a float the hangover. So float, or actually let's just say hangover, because we don't need the type. So over here, show potential fixes and generate method. So in here, we can get rid of that. So now we are going to, in here, this is where we're going to calculate the position, the scale, and this is where we're going to set the scale and the position as well. So to do that, we need to create a new size. So let's go and say float new Z. New Z size, so size is equal to, actually let me just put this here so I can see it. So in here we will say the last, well not a last cube because we said first slab, so the first slab, so first slab dot transform dot position, or rather scale, do we have scale, local scale there, so we'll take the local scale dot Z, and we will minus math F. Is it math F capital or lowercase? I think we'll try lowercase to see how that works. So math F dot absolute, and then we'll give it our hangover like that. So that's going to create a new Z size, obviously on the Z axis. So now we need to create a new float. So float, and we are going to create a size for the falling, the block that's going to fall down, so the hangover. So let's go and create a fall. What are we going to call this? Fall block. Actually, let's say hangover block size. So let's say hangover. Just keep it consistent with hangover block size is equal to the transform dot local scale dot Z again, obviously because we are working on the Z axis. As you can see, this is the Z axis here, and not the X and Y. So what is it? Transform dot local scale dot Z minus the new Z size. Cool. So we'll end that off. And then what do we need to do? Then what's next? Create a new Z size and get the size of the falling block. So now we need to figure out the position and the scale, and then we can go ahead and set that to the current slab. So let's go and do that. If we can find our script. So in here we are going to say float new Z position, and this is going to be equal to our previous, what do we call it, first slab, I think, first slab dot transform dot position dot Z plus our hangover, well, plus half of our hangover, so we'll divide that by 2. And then we need to create our, or we need to go and set our local scale. So we'll say transform.local scale is equal to new vector 3, and in here we'll give it our transform.x because, or transform dot local scale dot x because we don't want that to change, and we don't want the y value to change either. So we'll copy that. What am I doing? So we'll copy that and then paste that. We'll change that to a y value, and then the only thing we want to change is the new size. So we'll say new z size. So that's the only value that we're changing on the z axis, because we still want the height of it to stay the same, and we still want the length of it to stay the same. The only thing we want to change is the z-axis value, depending on how much is overhanging. So we'll leave that like that. So that is the scale set, and now let's go and set the position of it. So actually, let's go and save this and see what this actually does and if it actually works. So if we okay, so it should all be fine. Let's go and see what happens. If we play the game, does anything actually happen? Hopefully it does. So if we press, nothing happens because obviously we need to move it a bit that way so we can actually see it working. Okay, wrong one. So I'm getting confused with the axes. So it's moving on the Z axis, so we'll move that back over there, and then we will play the game, and hopefully it will come over our previous slab, which is our first slab. So let's see our block. Okay, so I moved it in the wrong direction, so we need to move it this way because it's moving towards that way. It's just because our camera is the wrong way. It needs to be somehow like this. This is so confusing. Okay, so actually I'm not going to do that. So let's just play this game and see if this works. So this should work. The cube, the slab should move in this direction now. So if we play the game and we press on it like that, okay, so you can see that I think it did cut it a little bit. So let's see, moving slab. We'll click on the moving slab and then see what the size of it is. Okay, so you can see it is actually getting cut, but we've got a little bit of bug there. So let's go ahead and finish it and see what happens when we set the position of it. Actually, I think it is working, but the problem is it's not, like I said, we're not actually going to cut it, we're just going to rescale it, so change the scale of it to the size that we need. The only reason why I think it doesn't look right is because we haven't set the position. So instead of it just scaling down at the position it is at, we want to go scale it down and move it to the correct position. So let's go and move it to that position now and see if it looks any better. So to move it to the right position, let's go and say transform.position is equal to a new vector 3, and in here we still want to have the same x and y value, so we'll say transform.position.x comma transform.position.y, and then we want to pass in our new position. So we'll set that like that, save that, and then let's jump back into the game and see if the moving slab gets cut and stays in the correct position. Because if it does, then that will be it for this episode. So let's see if we can stop it at the right place. I'm going to add an overhanging. Okay, so let's see. What I'm going to do is I am going to change the color just so we can see. Not that I think it makes a difference, but moving slab I am going to not change because we can't change the material. But can we go? Let's go into our scene and see what this looks like. So I think it is working, I think, but it's kind of moving it up a little bit, I think. Is it? Well, it's kind of moving it on the x-axis, which is not what we want. We want this to stay over there, but then we also want it to, if I can get there, we want it to move it back onto it so it looks like that. So let's go have a look and see what's happening. So we are creating a new hangover, and to do that we have created, well, we've got our transform.position.y and minus the first slab, our transform.position.y. That's good. Okay, hangover block size. So let's see. I think I have an idea. First slab dot transform dot position dot z plus our hangover divided by 2. Okay, let's go back and see what's happening. So if we go back to our game, we zoom out here. I want to see. I'm going to pause it straight away and wait for it to load up a bit. Let's click on our moving slab so we can see the position of the y value is 0.5. So I just want to see if that shifts up a bit, and then let's see, z is 5, or yeah, kind of 5. So let's see, play the game. Oh, why did I close it? So play the game again. Those values should stay the same, except for the z because that moves. So let's go and move it. Okay, so it's moving on the z, on the x-axis, which is not what we want. Transform.position.x. X.y. That's fine. We set those to equal that. And then we've given it the new z position, which is fine. So we haven't used this yet, we will later on. But I don't know, maybe I have to do some research into figuring out why that is changing the x-axis value, because we're not changing it except for assigning it the current value that it is. Transform.position.x on both the x for the position and the local scale, and the same thing for the y. We're not changing it, we're just reassigning it to our new slab, or yeah, our new slab that we resize. So I think I'll go back and do some research into that and see what's happening, because at the moment I can't figure it out, and I don't want to waste your time in trying to figure it out on the video. So we'll come back to that in the next episode when we actually spawn in a new piece of slab. So it looks like we have our overhanging slab that's still there, and then we can go ahead and drop that. So we'll figure that out, and then we'll do that in the next episode, along with spawning that new piece of slab and then probably also dropping it. So yeah, that's it for this episode. So thank you so much for watching if you made this far, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.